This is Shelaine Grant, the founder of Heart Times, and I'm really excited to have Rachel Anderson with us tonight, continuing with our wellness series, talking about different ways to help our health and just live a thriving life. And Rachel lives currently in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And welcome, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Hard Times is very passionate about working collaboratively with a variety of different health professionals, and very interested in nutritional therapy. And you are let me get this correct, a nutritional therapy practitioner.
Yes.
And your business is Healthy is Nutritional Therapy. And so I would love to hear a little bit about how you got onto this path of nutrition.
So I got into nutrition many years ago. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 10 years old. And so I started having a keen interest in health and diet, and probably more than my other siblings or peers was very interested in like health class and learning about nutrition and different kinds of diets. And I had to count, my carbohydrates every time I ate food. And so I became a bit hyper conscious with health stuff, and not almost a little bit too much. But so I had just kind of an avid interest in food and nutrition and health. And growing up throughout my teenage years, I was always kind of trying out the new diet fads, like, you know, and always asking my mom to buy, like, Mom, can you start buying this? And can you start buying that? I want to try this recipe and I want to try that recipe. And so I definitely had an interest in nutrition and health from about age 10 on. But I actually struggled with anorexia for about 3 years, from the time I was about 13 to 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was because with type 1 diabetes, my hormones were a bit out of whack and off kilter. And sometimes type 1 diabetics, you are very thin before you find out your diagnosis because your body is very nutrient deficient and not able to process things properly.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost a lot of weight before I was diagnosed with diabetes. And then afterwards, I gained weight pretty quickly. And so I just had sort of a body consciousness about my image, because my body changed really fast from being super skinny to gaining weight. And that was hard for me. And so I kind of became anorexic slowly over a period of years. And because it was gradual, my family didn't necessarily recognize it or see what was happening.
Right.
Um, but the anorexia actually kind of created more health problems beyond the diabetes. Um, and I didn't really understand the connection between the anorexia and my other health problems until years down the road. But
Mm-hmm.
so when I was about 16 years old, my diabetic doctor started doing different tests on me because I was not having periods. And he, wanted to kind of get to the root of that and figure out why, because I should have started at least, by the time I was 16 at least. Um, but years went on, and even by the time I was 18, I wasn't having periods still. And so the doctor put me on hormone medication, and being on those hormones was very challenging. I would think those 9 months that I was on hormone medication were, I felt very much like I was out of my own skin. My moods and my mental state were very, very um, affected by the medication that I was on, and I did not feel like myself. And I
Yeah.
just was on an emotional roller coaster for 9 months. And so fast forward a few years, I guess after about 9 months of being on the medication, I decided I couldn't handle it anymore. And so I was like, I'm going to look for natural solutions. I'm going to look for some natural options, how to solve this hormone problem. And I just believed that there had to be some sort of food out there, something nutritional that could improve my hormones. And so that was kind of the direction I was going. But I didn't, I did some Google searches and didn't come up with much. So I kind of felt lost for a while, but I definitely wasn't willing to go back on my medication because of the side effects. So several years down the road, I actually came across the path of a nutritional therapy practitioner in Minneapolis, where I was living at the time. And I explained my scenario to her and asked her if she thought she might be able to help me. And she said, I've never really worked with someone with symptoms like you. And same thing as my doctors. My doctors hadn't really worked with someone like me either, who had that kind of really rare condition and didn't really know the root cause of it. But she explained how nutritional therapy works and that she, would be willing to work with me if I was willing to put effort in and see how things went.
Yeah.
So I worked with her. I started working with her. And after 5 months of working with her, I started having natural periods for the first time in my life. And I was
Wow.
not on medication. And the
That's
amazing thing
incredible.
about working with my nutritional therapist was that not only did I start having periods, but a lot of other health problems that I had started clearing up. Health problems that I had no clue were even health problems. I didn't know they were things that could be improved or that should be improved. Um, so, for example, my digestion was very poor my whole life, and it started improving dramatically. And my sleep started improving, and my energy level started improving, and my skin and hair health started improving. So everything simultaneously started improving. And after that, I was like, wow, other people need to know about these kinds of solutions and that there's natural options for them. And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
pursued becoming a nutritional therapist myself.
Amazing. Well, that's so cool to hear your journey because we've known each other for a little over 10 years. And
Yeah.
I know that we even started talking about health at that time, and we both seemed really passionate about all of that. And just to hear your journey from that place of a lot of different health things going on to now being able to not be on medication and be living more of the life that you want to is really great to hear. Um, and I'm curious, like, what would you say is your most favorite thing about nutritional therapy?
I think kind of going back to what I already mentioned, my favorite one of my favorite things is that the side effects of nutritional therapy are all positive. So I kind of have this saying that when you heal your body naturally, there's not side effects, there's side benefits. And so
Mhm.
all the time when a person comes to me, I do a big interview process with them, and I always ask them, like, what are your primary health goals or the things you want to accomplish out of working with me? And usually it's just like two to 3 to 4 things. Like maybe it's my gut health is really bad, or I want to lose some weight. But then in the process of working with me, they see a myriad of things improve that they didn't even know were possible or that they didn't know needed improvement. Um, and it's really cool because when you heal the body naturally, um, it doesn't just heal one thing, but our bodies are interconnected. And so when you're working on healing one part of the body, it directly improves and benefits every other part of your body.
Mhm.
So in some ways, it's a little bit the opposite of medicine. A lot of medications will target one part of your body, but they'll give you side effects in 5 other areas. And
Mhm.
with nutritional therapy, it's the exact opposite. When you
Yeah.
give your body what it needs to heal one thing, it will start healing itself in other areas. And that's just amazing. And I think that's what we were made for. And most people have experienced such poor quality of living with health and healthcare. And I think
Mhm.
people deserve so much better than that.
Yeah, and I mean, we're even living in slightly different contexts, given that you're in the States and still have private health care, but there's things about public health care up here in Canada that are also really challenging to live with as patients and as people,
Mhm.
as citizens. So no matter what angle or type of service, ultimately, I'm a huge believer in not compartmentalizing yourself and your health because you just start getting fragments of what really needs to be going on. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear. Um, can you describe a little bit about what nutritional therapy is, just in case
Yeah.
people don't know much about it?
So nutritional therapy, kind of a foundational philosophy behind it is that the foods of the modern diet, processed foods of the modern diet, are the root cause of modern degenerative diseases. And that conversely, a whole foods, properly prepared, nutrient dense diet is the path to healing and recovery. and wholeness and living a vibrant life. And so nutritional therapy is really about um, rediscovering kind of ancient wisdom about food and food preparation and how to eat food in its whole form.
Yeah.
And really, when you do that and you give the body whole proper nutrition, the body is really able to heal itself. And so practically, what does that look like? When I'll Every nutritional therapist builds their business a little bit differently. So I'll just kind of give you how I work with clients, specifically what nutritional therapy looks like with my clients. So it kind of begins with, I'll give a customer or a client, I'll have them take a nutritional assessment questionnaire. It's a really detailed and in-depth assessment of about 350 questions that goes over 15 categories of your health, um,
Okay.
15 kind of key elements of health. And those results come back to me once a person takes that assessment, and it maps out a lot of nutritional deficiencies based on the correlations in the assessment. And it gives me a lot of really incredible information and window picture into a person's body and the symptoms they're experiencing. And
Mhm.
then based on that, and then in combination with the client's stated health goals and other things that they say they want to work on, I kind of combine those two things and create a personalized health plan for them that encompasses primarily what it focuses on is nutritional recommendations. So it's not a one size fits all program where there's like, a package of supplements that every client is going to take and that's the magic thing. And
Okay.
if
Right.
you do that, everything's going to change. It's very bio individual. So it's another thing I love about nutritional therapy is that we treat each person as an individual. And so what I'm going to recommend to you would be different than what I would recommend to somebody else, and different than what I did myself, because each person has a unique health history and their body will tolerate things differently than somebody else's. Um, so I make someone a personalized health plan, which entails, it's about a 20-page document, give or take five, and it encompasses nutritional recommendations of foods to include and then recommendations of foods to exclude, um, based on what the person's symptoms are and what their body seems to be needing or what their body might be reacting to. And I also include in there supplement recommendations. Supplements are kind of not the focus of nutritional therapy, but they're a powerful part of potential healing plan for a person based on their health needs.
Yeah. And
And
that
then,
would be like vitamin D or omega-3 or
yeah,
something like
things
that.
like that. And then some other more supplements of like amino acids and
Mhm.
different kinds of enzymes that your body might be lacking in. So a little bit even beyond just vitamins and minerals, into
Mhm.
different kinds of enzymes and things like that. Um,
Amazing.
And then the health plan also encompasses lifestyle recommendations that go into some different things as well. But so a lot of times it's just working with people to educate them. My passion is really to educate people as I work with them, so that I'm not just giving them a list of instructions that they follow, but that they really understand the why behind what they're doing. That's a
Yeah.
really big passion for me, because I don't want people to come to me and become dependent on me, but not really know why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, I want people to know how their body works, so that 10 years down the road, even if they haven't worked with me for years and years, they know how to interpret their own symptoms and what that means. And they know how to read their own body and kind of become their own doctor in a way, and know how to heal their body through food and through nutrition.
Incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Being an active part of your treatment, right? I mean, that's what it sounds like is a huge part of what you do in your
Yeah.
business. Yeah. And with your clients. Um, of course, we all know as helping professionals that there's definitely days that there are challenges.
Yeah.
And what would you say would be the biggest challenge of practicing nutrition, especially these days?
The challenging thing for me is if I have a client, which doesn't happen very often, but occasionally I have a client who, we're doing follow-up appointments and check-in sessions, and they're not really following the protocols, they're not really implementing their health plan. And so
Yeah.
they're kind of stagnant, and they're just kind of staying in a stationary place and not seeing a lot of improvement. And it's really hard for me, because I so much want to see people experience wholeness. And so Sometimes, it can come to a point where I have to kind of dismiss the client, and just say, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you much more until you start implementing some of the steps I've already given you. And I don't
Mhm.
want to waste, your time and money by having you continue to see me unless you're seeing some of the breakthroughs that you want to see. And so maybe we should pause and not continue our sessions until you feel like you're at a place where you can better implement um,
Mhm.
the plan. And I've never had any problems with that, but that's kind of, I think, the biggest challenge is letting go if people aren't taking responsibility for their own health.
Yeah, and I think that probably a lot of us as helping professionals can relate to that, where it just gets to be a point that, there's only so much support you can give, and if there's not, the follow-up
Yeah.
implementation actually happening, then it's kind of a stagnant road, right? That you're
Yeah.
on, intersection or whatever you might call it, right? Um, well, and then what would you say would be some of the challenges of nutrition and just having a nutritional diet in these days of, there's a lot of, especially now during COVID,
Yeah.
and people who don't have their typical income, and so people are working on a really tight budget.
Mhm.
Yeah, what are some of those struggles, and what would be your recommendations?
In some ways, I feel like I'm spending more money on food, but when it actually comes down to it practically, um, real food, it nourishes you. And so you don't need as much of it. And you don't tend to have erratic and really demanding cravings. Um, Food that's not nutrient dense, it doesn't nourish your body. And so you crave and you want a lot more of it. And so, what I've seen for myself and for other people is that when you remove foods that are lifeless and processed that don't have nutritional value from your diet, those foods cost money, and you're replacing them with foods that are very nutrient dense and that really satisfy. And so, while in some ways, you might look at one thing and think it's a little more expensive than something else you used to eat, in the end, the value you're getting out of it and how it nourishes you and satisfies you is so much greater that in some ways you'll actually buy less or you'll spend less on food, um, than the other way around.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, lots of us, I think, have gained weight or kind of gone out of our typical practices during this really stressful time. And so cravings, I think, is a huge issue. And I know even in mental health, that can really impact not just like your body and you're thinking of your own self-esteem and that sort of thing, but just can really make you lethargic and all of those symptoms too.
So
And
true.
I'm curious if you have seen how nutritional therapy can support mental health too.
Yeah. Um, I I saw personally when I started nutritional therapy, for my own health, I felt like I saw improvement in my overall moods and the stability of kind of my mental health. And one of my clients recently that I have been working with, she wrote up kind of a testimonial for me of what it's been like working with me and how her health has improved. And one of the things that she really stated was that her mental health has really improved since working with me. Um, and so I think, moods are really impacted and by hormones, and hormones are really impacted by nutrition and by your diet. And so the building blocks for a lot of hormones are, fats and proteins. And so what you eat and what types of foods you're eating and what types of nutrition you're getting really impacts hormone levels in your body, and hormone levels really impact your moods and your mental health. And so, eating also, I think too, just on a practical level, when you're tired, if you're tired on a regular basis and you're feeling exhausted all the time, that really impacts your mental health. Living in a state of exhaustion where you're constantly battling physical fatigue, it just impacts your mental health on a very practical level, not to mention, you know, hormones that actually impact your mental health on a more kind of, neurological level. And so good nutrition really impacts your energy levels, and kind of indirectly that way really does impact your mental health. But then, um, nutrition definitely has a huge impact on mental health. So I have seen for myself personally an improvement in mental health through nutritional therapy. And I know that it makes a big difference for other people as well.
Very cool. Yeah, it's all so interrelated, hey? It's not one thing or the other. We're very complex uh individuals, hey? And yet at the same time um there's a lot of things that we can do, and it's an individualized plan for sure. But there's similarities too.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I see how definitely nutrition can help a lot of the clients that I see at Heart Times.
Mhm.
And so thank you so much for that answer. That is a nice way of explaining it.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're welcome. Mhm.
yeah, and any like success stories that you have that you'd like to share? You've kind of already shared your own journey, but
Yeah.
any other successes that you want to share with us tonight?
Um, I am constantly blown away at the success stories, and I don't have shame in boasting about them because it's not just a credit to me and like that I do such great work, but it's really a credit to how amazing our bodies are. Like I said, if people follow their health plans, every single one of them sees success, and it's really fascinating. I would say I'm trying to think of like a favorite story. One client that I worked with recently, um, she had a really fun, kind of dramatic and quick turnaround with her health. She came to me with because she was having really severe stomach cramps and pains, and um, on a daily, if not, or on a weekly, if not daily basis, her stomach was in a lot of pain when she would eat, and sometimes the cramping in her stomach would be so severe that it was debilitating.
Right.
So she mainly just came to me because she was like, I just know something's wrong with my gut. I don't know exactly what it is, but I just feel awful when I eat a lot of times, and the cramps that are happening are getting worse. And within 2 weeks of working with me, her digestion was improved like night and day. And she stopped having stomach pains and cramps. And then on top of it, she's like, my energy levels are like so much better. And she's the one who also mentioned the mental health, that she noticed her mental health really, really improving. Um, so it even shocks me sometimes still when people see results that quickly. But
Absolutely.
that's just
That's
kind of the
beautiful.
power of real nutrition, and how when you kind of remove the negative factors from the diet, the things that are inflammatory and nutrient deficient, and you add in nutrient sufficient and nutrient dense foods, the body heals itself so quickly. And some people it takes a little longer than others, but a lot of people see really quick results. So that's just a recent testimony of someone who just saw turn around so quickly, and now she can eat and feels great, and not just feels great with how her stomach digests food, but with her energy levels and her moods as well.
Is there any tips that you would give the people watching this tonight on just general improving from a nutritional perspective? Any tips you would offer?
Yeah. um, I think um, my favorite piece of advice, and something that I go over in a lot of detail with my clients, but is the difference between macronutrients. And so three major macronutrient food groups in our human diet are fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And I know in recent times, the keto and the paleo diet have kind of risen in prominence. They're diets that are high in protein and high in fat, and you know, and with some variation, low in carb. Keto is much more extreme than paleo diet, but um, your body really needs fat for fuel, for energy, and your body needs protein for satiation. And so in Western society, our diet typically is high in processed carbs and high in carbohydrate, and very deficient in healthy fats and proteins. And so one of the things that people see the quickest results with, even with their energy, is when they intentionally increase their fat and protein intake and cut back on their carbohydrate intake. And so, for example, classic breakfast that a person would have would be, like two pieces of toast and a cup of coffee, or, a granola bar on the way to work, or a banana and a bowl of cereal. All of those foods might have a little bit of fat or protein in them based on what you eat them with, but they're primarily a carbohydrate rich food. And the pattern that you'll see with that is that you eat it, you feel a little bit of energy spike for maybe 30 minutes to an hour and a half. But then mid morning, you're having coffee and sugar cravings, you have a headache, you're tired, you want to take a nap, and you need coffee again to kind of get you through to lunch. And people see such a dramatic shift when they swap out their breakfast and do something that's more centered with fat and protein, like have 2 eggs and a sausage, or have half of an avocado on a piece of toast with an egg. And just doing little changes like that, really shifting away from just carbs or processed carbs, especially, to intentionally adding more fat and protein into your meals throughout the day, really turns people's energy around very quickly. So that's a very kind of basic um, piece of advice that helps people quite dramatically.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel. It's
Of
really been a pleasure having you tonight join us and share your nutritional perspective on wellness. And yeah, it's just been such a great time and an honor to have you. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank
And
you so much.
yeah, and we'll see everyone again soon. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me, and I hope you have a lovely evening and weekend as well. It's been great to be with you.
Bye for now.